Hi there, and welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Mindset Matters. Stephanie, welcome.
Hey, hun.
So we did a vacation
We did do
mode.
a vacation mode, didn't we?
Yeah, so
It was amazing.
we went a best of. Well, we took a bit of time off, and we're back.
Well, you know what? That's what kind of brings us to the topic today.
Yeah, the topic. I love the title, The Great Reset.
No, the greatest reset. I think the Great Reset's already been talked about. If you haven't heard about it, maybe look it up. But this is the greatest reset.
Okay, there we go. I felt a little bit like clickbait there, you know? Get people to listen in. Well, listen, folks, we're here to talk about the greatest reset. So guide us along the way. You know, we came up with this topic understanding a couple of things about the importance of a reset and what do we mean by that. So let's kind of start to unpack the conversation, why it's important to kind of consider how we show up, how we complete. We've talked about completion and incompletion. This is not that, although it's
part of it.
It's part of it, yes, for sure. So, okay, walk us through the scenario. Tell us about your thought process around the greatest reset.
Well, it's like other words that currently right now are being hijacked in this, what's going on in our world. But the reset is a very important process and a very important opportunity when something comes to a close. So you think about, needing a reset. So we could have called our vacation a reset, but it was a process that we went through, that we were completing some very stressful times. It was, a couple of years before we've gone on a holiday. And then wanting to set up something new. Like we wanted to bring the podcast live to YouTube. We want to do it on video. So there's got to be some sort of closure and closing and a reset of a trajectory in a new direction. But what happens for many, and I really see this with high performance athletes, my HNW clients, is that if they just barrel ass into what's next without actually consciously and intentionally resetting the trajectory or coming to close so that they can renew in a new direction, then there's not that time and space and pause that can happen in order to really powerfully move into what's next.
So, when you brought this topic up, it kind of, as you were speaking, I kind of thought about what's been going on in the past, for us, really about the past month, and certainly the past couple of weeks, because we went away. We went to Mexico, spent some time on the beach, was awesome, ate too much, drank too much, all the things that you get to do on a vacation, slept
a lot,
did all those things. But then I went from Mexico, I
straight
flew
to Toronto,
and you stayed in Mexico.
Yes, I did.
I'm not going to hold that against you. But I went straight to Toronto, had a great time in Toronto business. I was on a podcast. We did a couple of events. I spoke at a couple of events, did the podcast. Really, really fun. Then from Toronto, I flew back to BC, and literally less than 24 hours later, jumped on a plane, flew to Calgary, and then headed into our think tank that JG Francoeur and I put on this past weekend in Calgary, which was freaking amazing. And now I'm home. So then it's literally, we're doing this podcast the day I've arrived at home because of just the way we produce the podcast. And just from experience and thoughtfulness, now that may all sound, I don't know what that sounds like to somebody listening in, but it's airplanes, it's time zones, it's, hotels, you're, hauling. And it's also about the space you hold when you're being interviewed on a podcast, when you're speaking at a couple of events. Then you come home and we went to the think tank. And for those of you who have maybe had the opportunity or have facilitated a conversation, or if you haven't, you may not realize that when you're facilitating a workshop, you are present for 8-10 hours where there are no distractions. You have to be there listening.
You have to be on. It's full on performance mode.
It is. You really are listening, and you're trying to get, the most out of people and then guide and do all the things. So you got to be on. Plus, with JG and I, we're there working together, and it's not scripted. We're riffing off of stuff. We're taking on problems, solving them, and it's all fun, by the way. We love it, but we wouldn't have it any other way. The point is that It is mentally, emotionally, and to a different degree physically. You're on your feet all day, exhausting. Now, I know, for example, that tomorrow I've got nothing on my calendar.
Mm.
So why? Well, first off, I want to be able to look after myself. I want to be able to rest. I want to be able to reflect. I want to be able to have some space to kind of just regather, hang out at home. What have I got to do here? Kind of plus reflect on the past couple of weeks. What do I need to carry forward? What do I need to let go? What do I need to celebrate? So for me, that's kind of a long-winded way saying that's my reset.
It is, and that's really what we've learned. And maybe I wish we learned it younger, but it is planning that buffer day. It's understanding that in order to reset and to have the energy to move forward. And I mean, gosh, we don't have the built-in endurance that we had 3 years ago. I mean, we haven't traveled as much. So what you actually accomplished is because you also have the habit of intentionally resetting. So on an airplane, I know you do a meditation instead of just opening your computer. I do the same thing. So yes, I had a couple of extra days in Mexico and I'm very, very grateful. But then I went right into a European Championships in Finland. I went on finish time. And I also had at the same time a US National Championships that I was navigating at the same time. So if I didn't understand that, even though after a vacation reset, there still is a transition day, there still is laundry to do, there's shopping, groceries, there's helping you get organized to get on an airplane, there's dogs. So if we just don't take care of those transition moments and understand that we have to reset ourselves emotionally, physically, even, in our environment, then we're just basically stacking things on top of each other where we actually, for me, I couldn't enjoy the repercussions and the relaxation I experienced from Mexico if I didn't have the tool that I call reset.
Well, that's an interesting thought process. And, as we share kind of the context for it, we'll get to some workability, some thought process for you that are listening, to say, where can you apply what we've learned in our life and why do we need to do that? As much as when you think about over the years, we've both traveled a lot. We've both presented a lot. And although that looks fun and it is not necessarily easy. It's exhausting work because, as I say, you have to be present. You have to be on and you have to be having those conversations while at the same time running and operating a business, logistics, flights, working with your team. And so that's all to say that we learned many years ago to actually take the time to sit back. So I'll give you a little bit of a process. So we would do events, big events, and at the end of every event, we would debrief. And that debrief, we would look at the event, and JG and I did that this weekend. We did it with the couple people that were there supporting us. And it really was a conversation about what worked, what didn't work. What did we take away? What did we do well? What do we feel we did well? And where do we need to improve? And is there anything that we're going to take forward as changes? We make all those notes. That's all a very structured debrief so that we can let it go. Okay, now that's part of a reset.
Yes, absolutely it is. Because as you go through that process intellectually, you're also getting to celebrate those moments, or you're also getting to look at them so that when you go to bed that night, oh, I wish I would have said that or thought that. Part of the intentionality of those debriefs, which I call closing,
yes,
which is the process, the beginning of the reset, is that you have the time to share, especially with the people that you were working with, and that shared energy, that celebration, that or that, really that reflection becomes the foundation of being able to plug in so that you can energetically move on to the what's next. I think about what you did from when we left for Mexico and all the planes and all the trains and automobiles and the hotels that you were in. But if you didn't have the skill and the conscious now, which is now unconscious for you, to reset on an ongoing basis, which I do with my athletes, for example, is that they have it now, the skill that they can do walking resets, walking close, that they can talk about it, they can voicemail it into a WhatsApp message, they can do it so that they're constantly moving and shifting that energy so they're not living in the past or they're not dragging some of that emotional energy, which like you said, is that it's exhausting.
So so let's talk about that a little bit, because when we consider the incompletion that we talk about, right? So when you operate on top of incompletions, that can also come back to kind of you're dragging incompletions forward. So a reset, if I'm following your train of thought and in the context that I'm holding it as well, is that the reset is also about a completion. It is actually coming to the end of a portion, a whole project, a portion of a project, the end of the week where you've done something, where you can actually stop, acknowledge that this is the end of that. And maybe you had a busy week. Maybe you did something with a team. And I don't mean you as in you, Steffany. I mean you as in you listening. Look at what your week entailed. And are you, in fact, taking the time to reset? Some would say, well, I'm going home on the weekend and I'm going to sleep. Got it.
That's part of it. Rest is part of the reset.
But it's intentional.
Yes.
It has to be, I believe, an actual thought process. You may include making notes, to really say that my mind is clear. I'm mentally, physically, emotionally, I don't want to say rested, but that could be, you're going to be part of that. It's going to be rested. I'm flat. In other words, I'm not carrying a bunch of anxiety into the future with me.
Right. So the intention is to get to neutral, as we call it neutral. So when you think about what you're just saying is that if you don't take the moment to do a little bit of a close or a little bit of a debrief, what happens is that mentally you're still carrying some of that. And many people journal. They can take the time and make the notes. But to intentionally do it means that you're not bringing all of that stuff that could or should have, would have happened into your evening, for example, when you're trying to go to sleep and maybe you've got a really big day. So I think being intentional around how you complete is what gives that moment of rest, reflection, but it takes confidence to do that, because it takes confidence to know that you have earned or you have deserved that moment to enjoy the win. So for example, you had a big event this weekend with Think Tank and it was amazing. I had Finland with skaters that skated lights out and they had to celebrate, but they still have the World Championships coming up in March. So they can't ride this high. I mean, I'm going to let them and they will honor that and ride it as long as they can, because that's why they work so hard. But one of the problems with this type of energy is that they think it's sustainable. But in order to bring it to what you were talking about is to bring it to neutral, talk about what went well. Oh my gosh, it felt amazing. And we did this, we had a skate of our lives, our season's best, etc. But when it comes to training and resetting the trajectory for Worlds, it doesn't matter what they did at Nationals at the US, if they won with a record number or at the European Championships. It doesn't matter. It's over. And that's hard for people, especially if they maybe had a big deal, or maybe it's a wedding or something really exciting, and then it's over. There's always a low after a high. So what I'm trying to do with this concept, and it's an original kind of IP thing for me, is that to consciously create a reset after a high, especially after a high, we do a hard reset, or after a low. Maybe they didn't do something so well.
Walk us through a reset in the context that you do a reset. Now, and let's not talk about just, world-class champions, coming off a world-class competition. What I'm saying is that, so for example, you talk about some of the camps that you've run where you don't do it after a long weekend.
Yes, because what I've discovered, and it really takes discipline to understand. So a long weekend comes, everybody's excited. They go out Friday night, or they go to a family reunion for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, where the next morning on a Tuesday, for example, they have to go back to the rink or they have to go back to work or whatever. What training myself, first of all, and then training the team around us is that, okay, where do you build in your travel time? Where do you build in the laundry? Where do you build in grocery shopping? Where do you build in the rest and the recovery, especially if it was a party and a wedding or a reunion? Because the truth of the matter is, we're, as human beings and business owners, we have a responsibility to still perform at work on the Tuesday after a long weekend. So I stopped doing a lot of camps and a lot of things on the weekend of the week of a long weekend.
Well, that's interesting, right? We've all seen it, and many have experienced it where, they want to make the most of the long weekend. So they're not coming home from the lake, for example, until, 9:00 at night. By the time
On
they
the
get
Monday.
home, unpacked, Monday night, they get to bed, it's late, they're tired, they've had, a weekend of fun and sun, whatever that might look like. They get up Tuesday and it's like, holy cow, it's like they
You
got
hit
hit
the
by
wall.
a truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you got hit by a truck. Whereas we've, over the years, not that we don't get caught, but over the years, we would use Monday as the day of reset.
That's right.
We wouldn't make big plans for anything on the Monday other than to say we'll be done by noon or we'll be done by 2:00, where we have the evening at least or the afternoon to reset. So what's the point of this? Because when you think about, is this about high performance? Is this about being the best you can be? So when you look at this area of discipline called, the reset. So let me give you an interesting insight that, as we were talking about this, that showed up for me. So some of the individuals who were in the think tank this particular weekend were also part of our shift program. They had kind of come to trust us and understand how we operate. So they are part of think tank. But what was interesting about it this morning, so we did Friday, it was a networking, get everybody get together, get to know each other. Then Saturday, yesterday, in this case, because we're doing this recording on the Sunday, they on Saturday worked really, really hard. They did all the stuff. We finished. It was a long day. It was great. Everybody felt really good about it. But interestingly enough, we give everybody instructions and kind of insights into how to take it on and some things to do. But I happened to go down into the lobby of the hotel, and there was two people who were from the shift program. Guess what they were doing? Sitting in the lobby, relaxing, and writing.
Journaling. Yep. Yep.
And, capturing additional thoughts, even though Saturday they all went off. The team, JG and I did not join them. They went off and did their own thing as a group, and it was interesting that discipline, those habits that and they were just resting, taking the morning to kind of get regrounded, to reset. And they were all doing different things, by the way, because some came from Ontario. They were off doing different adventures in Western Canada because we were in Calgary. So that was kind of cool. But, I just noticed that amongst a few of the people that had that discipline, had been, taking that coaching to heart and was putting it to work.
Yeah, that's actually extremely important and very flattering, actually, knowing that it's moving forward. But I do see it also with the athletes that I work with and the people that are around us, is that to think highly enough of yourself, to give yourself time to reset, to give yourself time to, capture some notes and to slow down, cowboy, just to give yourself that time. That's where I believe the next level of energy comes from. The next energy of inspiration or motivation, or being able to move forward and without dragging some of that stuff. Because right now, and I find and I'm not sure if you're finding this, but there's a lot of very, very heavy energy and a lot of things that people are operating on top of that maybe haven't, come to completion.
Oh, we've talked about that many times, is what's going on in the world. But, it is interesting, so JG, total high performer. Carrie had come into Calgary, his wife had come with him, and his dad had come with him. But he was it's a total reset. Like, he knows. He left today. They had already got plans. They're going to spend an extra couple days, and they're not, like I can text JG and I'll get an answer, but he's offline,
Nice.
right? He's offline. Why is he doing that? He's resetting. He's also had a busy time, so he needs to just take a break as well. So this is all part of honoring the kind of mental, emotional, spiritual space that we all need to recover. It's a different kind of recovery from, let's say, a workout where you're working out on the odd day. Am I hitting it the way you want it?
Absolutely. Because what you're saying also, which I'm really happy that you brought that up, is that we have to think highly enough of ourselves to take a couple days out of the loop, like thinking that we're not, FOMO, we're not going to miss something, or we're so darn important that we have to have our phone on 24/7. It's not true. If as human beings, we're human beings, we're not human doings. And as we be in the lives and creating our best life, we only really have one life. People think, well, it's work, it's business, it's life, it's family. Yes, there's 7 areas of life, but there's really only one life. And it's up to us as the captain of our ship is to really understand that there's just times after, especially after a high or after a big intense weekend like you guys had, is to give that time to yourself and know that you've earned it and you deserve it. And I always laugh at when I always say, I'm just not that important. I'm turning my phone off for a couple of days because I'm just not that important. And it makes people laugh because you have to, like I have to do it with humor, and to teach people that is for me, so important because we are the CEOs of our own lives.
Well, I think that's really important. And the other thing that showed up for me in all of this is how we do it is because we know this and we've known it for a long time. We all, certainly older, wiser, wider, but at the end of the day, we've learned a lot. And it was interesting that last week when I was setting up what's coming up this week, I was having a conversation with one of the key team members, and I said, well, we could probably do this on Monday when I get back. And Bonnie said, she goes, no, we'll just give you a day to relax and get your shit together.
Get your reset.
Get your reset, right? She didn't use that phraseology, but she didn't.
She knows.
So all of the team didn't start setting meetings for me until Tuesday. And the point is that we do that.
Yeah.
We do that with our team. So if you're listening to this and you are a leader, is that how hard do you want to push your team, and understanding that you will get more results, more out of your team, more creativity,
and out of yourself.
But it's not. I think there's a part of it too, is that when we build the culture and the environment for our team to succeed, we talk a lot about that. Is we create the environment for people to show up and be their best selves, to be and perform to their highest degree, and understanding that. Yes, somebody comes to work and they work hard, but aside from all of that, they've got life going on. They've got perhaps kids and dogs and dramas and in-laws and pressures. And if we have a particularly busy week in terms of our performance within our businesses, our careers, jobs, whatever that might be, can we honor our team? Like, in other words, to have the awareness of others as leaders and understanding. And
it's not to give people excuses, to underperform. What it is as leaders is to understand that in order to get the best out of ourselves and to hold the environment for people to be their best, there has to be some awareness of what they need to do to shift and to reset, to recover. Like, think about what it takes to recover after a trauma or think about a big deal that you've just put 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months into, and it happens, it comes to fruition, or it doesn't, but there's a closure, there's an ending to it. There's going to be some repercussions. There's a ripple effect of emotion, possibly, of maybe some excitement, maybe some regret, maybe some this, but to intentionally bring it in. That's why I always like to express, like, what are you so done with? What are you never going to do again? That's also part of this. And when we understand that we can look at what that we did well and what we didn't do so well, what we are never going to do again, what we may want to bring forward because it's a new thing, we move maybe past a blind spot, then we are moving into a conscious reset.
And I think it's so important to look around and aside from what you need to get handled. And hopefully in this little brief conversation, these insights that we've shared, you can see where maybe you're not honoring yourself, or perhaps where your significant other isn't taking time to reset. You're good with that with me. And I do a pretty good job with you, I think, most of the time, is because we do get into the jag we get on a roll and okay, let's just keep doing, and we don't stop to honor our stuff. But I remember just this past year with one of the team on the retail stores is that we literally had to force him to take a break. And
we actually sent him and his wife to Mexico.
It was like,
go.
go away. You need to take a break. But he was so caught up in it, and he wanted so much to keep moving things forward. We'd come off COVID, all of the stuff that was going on, lots of pressure. He was in the jag. Anyways, the point is that as leaders, we have to have the awareness of how are we looking after the team that surround us, because without our team, without the people that are around us, we've really got nothing. And so just being aware of it. So yes, you need to be the center of your universe. Yes, you need to be looking after yourself, but part of looking after you is giving you the energy and the insights, the power, if you will, and I guess the view of the world. That's part of the reset too.
100%.
Is to kind of look around you and go, okay, am I making sure I'm looking after my team as well? Because these resets are really important, and we can all get caught in it. And there's old stories that people get caught into where work harder, work harder, work harder.
Yeah, work ethic.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
lead
work
by
ethic.
example.
Yeah, all those stories. So, hopefully this is giving you some insights into how to, well, let's go one layer deeper. And we talk about a reset. And so what does a reset look like? So for me, a reset tomorrow will be nothing more than just slowing down, really being choosy. If I'm going to answer an email, probably not. I'll respond to one or two people, maybe, because they're looking for some insights. Cheryl might reach out to me. She guards me so well. She may ask me a question, and I would answer her, because I know that Cheryl will never reach out to me unless she absolutely needs to on a reset day. So then I may have a nap. I'll definitely have a meditation. I'll hang out with my dogs. I'll take time to reflect on the past week and the weekend.
And maybe look at some pictures from Cabo.
Maybe. I'm done with Cabo. It's gone. It's over.
It's all in the past.
I'm on the move. I'm all rested, ready to go. So the point is what are you doing? What does it look like? I'll go for a walk. I'll do a light workout. It really is a disconnect. And in all of that process for me, I am reflecting. I'm going, what's complete? What am I going to carry forward? What is the plans for the future? And it really is giving me time to be creative and have a thought process, and then start to say, what am I going to execute on? Because guess what? Tuesday, I'll be back into it and on the go again, but I'll be rested and I'll be clear.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, is that to consciously build in a buffer day, a rest day, a day to understand that there is a recovery that has to happen, especially if there's been a high. Like I think about you guys doing the think tank and how amazing it was, and the feedback, and, positive, negative, et cetera. But it was a really great weekend. Same with me in Finland and in the US. There was a lot of highs in there, but the highs aren't sustainable. And part of the reset is also to understand that, to bring yourself to neutral, to feel the high, to celebrate, to share, to debrief with the people that you shared that experience with, and not maybe try to bring it home. I remember, you used to pick me up from the airport many times after a world championships or something, and I would just be quiet. I couldn't say anything. And you had all these amazing questions, and you wanted to connect, and you wanted to have conversations, and I couldn't do it until like the next day. And what you used to do was you would say, okay, I'm not going to pick you up. I'm going to send a car. And then when you get home, we're going to have a massage therapist there for you. And you started to help me reset as my partner. But until we started to understand and learn about each other, and this is like 20 years ago, is that we learned how to do this.
Husband.
You're such a good husband. And he'd, book my, massage, but to bring somebody into the house so that I didn't have to leave, so I could have my bath and get myself organized, especially after there was a huge high or a huge low. Doesn't matter what it is, a high or a low, neither of them are real until you bring them to neutral. And that's what you really taught me, and you really started to build in. And now I do that now with everyone I work with, is to build in those reset days. And can we all of us afford to have a massage therapist come in and whatever? But you know what? We didn't have the same resources that we have now, but we put a high value on those resets. And you put a high value on me being nurtured and taken care of during those stressful times. And I'll always remember that. And I built that into my program. I built that into my life. And I think it's important for, for everybody moving forward.
It's not and it's, I think in some context, perhaps in some minds, it might be a sign of weakness.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly, right? Oh, yeah.
Suck it up.
Suck it up, princess.
Yeah, don't suck it up.
Yeah.
That's my guidance.
Yeah, exactly. Stop sucking it up.
Stop sucking it up. Just take a rest. Have a break. Steffany, thanks for this conversation. I think that everybody should consider the greatest reset, and thanks for kind of walking me through that.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.